Today in science, we're going to talk about what is a scientist. We're going to start by getting out our science notebooks. We're going to open up to the table of contents to the page that we completed yesterday. What is science? On page 1. So I'm going to turn to page 1. When we talked about what is science, we said that it's weather, experiments, medicine, sickness, environment, and lots of other things. Today, we're going to turn to the next page and try to figure out what is a scientist. On my next blank page, I'm going at the top to write, I'm going to write today's date, which is still November 1st for me, 2020. And I'm going to write, what is a scientist? What is a scientist? Question mark. I'm also going to number my page, page 2, and I'm going to number this page, page 3. In this spot, I want you to draw a picture of a scientist. What does a scientist look like? Pause the video and draw your picture now. We are going to watch a slideshow of I am a scientist. I observe and notice details. I am a scientist. I ask questions. I am a scientist. I test my ideas. I am a scientist. I write or draw about what I've learned. I am a scientist. I think about what I've learned. I am a scientist. I tell others what I have learned. In my science notebook, I drew a picture of what I thought a scientist looked like. I drew a boy with crazy hair and glasses who's wearing a lab coat and has stuff in his pockets. Is that what all scientists look like? Does a scientist have to be a boy? Could it also be a girl? Does a scientist have to have crazy hair? Could they also have regular hair? Does a scientist have to be tall or short? Do they even have to wear a lab coat? Maybe they wear regular clothes. Maybe they wear like what doctors wear and they wear scrubs. You're a scientist. I'm a scientist. Do we look like this scientist? All scientists look a little bit different from each other, but they all have one thing in common. They want to learn more about the world around them. On our next page, we are going to write about what questions do scientists ask. So we are going to label our next page, Things a Good Scientist Says. Here I go. Things a good scientist says. ... And I'm going to put my date over here. And I already have my number down here. I want you to pause the video and think about some things that good scientists say. This one is called, What Do Scientists Do? Let's check it out. They ask questions. One question is, what will happen if? They form a hypothesis. A hypothesis is a question, an answer to a question, and they try to figure out if their answer is correct by saying, I think. They test their hypothesis to see if their guess is correct. They record their observations in their science notebook. And they come to a conclusion. Things a good scientist says. They say, I think. Does that mean that you already know the answer for sure? No, you're just making a guess, and you are going to test your guess and see if it's correct. They say, I wonder. I wonder how this works. And then we do some experiments to see if we can figure out what it does. What are some other things a good scientist says? A really good scientist says, I was wrong. It turns out that it really works like this. Or, now that I tried it, I know the answer is. So another thing a good scientist says is, I was wrong. And that's okay, because we're learning, and that's what science is all about. Pause the video and make sure that you've written a few things that good scientists say. To wrap up our lesson today, we talked about what a scientist is, what a scientist looks like. We talked about what good scientists say. They think about things, they wonder about things, and they learn if their ideas were right or wrong now that they know more stuff. Make sure that you have numbered the bottom of your pages, and we're going to fill out our table of contents. This page is called What is a Scientist? So I'm going to go back to my table of contents and write those words. What is a scientist? We also had a page that said, things a good scientist says. I'm going to write that one below. Things a good scientist says. And I'm going to go back and check my page numbers. This was on page 2 and this was on page 3. So I'm going to write page 2 and page 3. When you have finished updating your science notebook, you can put it away for today. Great job!